appreciate you jumping on.
No, thanks for having me. Yeah, this is awesome.
Yeah, I decided this past year I started working with Aaron Hensley. I sat down with Brett, talked with Brett, Josh Smith a bunch. I started working with Aaron Hensley, and I'm getting rid of the painting company altogether. The podcast is now the Warrior Academy podcast. It's going to be talking to, like I had Osborne on Junior last week, talking to martial arts friends of mine. And then over the summer and spring break, I'm actually going to bring in parents and their kids, and we're going to make like testimonials, talk to the kids, give the kids a chance, like use it as a, hey, whoever works really hard, you get a spot, come on the podcast. Okay. But I also get a referral and a review from a parent in like super high quality. If I'm going to spend the money on it, I'm going to use it for that. And that's just kind of we're just going towards just all martial arts, all everything. I'm hoping to have the painting company done 100% by the end of February. Right now it's still going just because I've got like 5 jobs that are running way behind and I'm kind of stuck. I was hoping to be done with it by the first of the year, and we're just kind of stuck with it. So
the plan is somebody else is going to take that over?
You know, I've talked to some dudes, I've looked into it, and nobody, like the guys out there that's like a one-man crew that's like, man, I want to build up. I'm like, cool, I got turnkey right here. Oh, I'm scared, you know. And because all the contacts and stuff, nothing's really under contract. It's just a bunch of broken vans and some old equipment. Like there's no real value to it. So unless, and I reach out to a guy, we're gonna look into selling the page, the website, the Facebook, the Instagram to someone to use for lead generation, and we'll just sell the leads. So I'll probably partner with this guy. I know he's got a couple LLCs he owns, but all he does is use them for lead generation, then sells the leads for like windshield repair. He sells the leads to other companies. And I think it's almost all automated. And I messaged him the other day and I was like, hey, this page is mature, the Google's mature, I get 30, 40 organic leads a month without running ads. I was like, if you ran an ad and used, did your voodoo on it, because that's what he's good at, is bringing in that. I was like, we could probably sell 100 leads a month. And the page is mature, everything's there, there's tons of content. He messaged back, he's like, you may be onto something. That may be a way of, because I hate to just be like, turn the key and just lose just walk away from all the equipment and stuff. But if I could just piecemeal the equipment out or, sell it discounted price, but in the meantime, got somebody selling those leads where I'm making something on the back end, it might be worth my work. Because last year I spent a bunch of time trying to sell it, and that was absolutely out of the question. That was the most ridiculous. Because I had a couple guys who were interested, but then what they did, and I knew what they were going to do, so I pre-framed it correctly, but then they ran to my builder and was like, oh, Matt's trying to sell it to me, I'll just take your work. Yeah. And I knew that was.
If you're listening to them, though, they don't want the business, they just want the work. So selling them the leads is all they want. They'll be more than happy to buy all your equipment off of you, just liquidate it all out and sell them the lead. And you've just generated a whole new business and made it a hell of a lot easier on yourself.
Yeah, and I have no headache with it or nothing. And then I can legitimately be like, oh, hey, I sold that. And, if someone calls up, hey, you guys, blah, 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 I'd be like, oh, I'm not Boyer Painting anymore. That was sold to this LLC or whatnot. So then I just do martial arts. Whether it makes $50 a month or $5,000, whatever, I don't even know what that'd generate. I just know that I know some people that have done it with other things. So we're kind of putting that out there. Hell, if it just pays for me to go to tournaments, I'm good with it. I'm not looking to live off it. So, but yeah, this is awesome. And I'm excited to sit down and talk with you. So we'll go ahead and get started with if you just want to say like who you are, what you do, kind of what we did with, Brett was on, Thomason was on 2 weeks ago. You guys are all my first ones. Kind of talk a little bit about your, what your business is, like who you are, and then your martial arts past. And then we'll kind of get to talking about like upcoming projects or things that you've got going, or just kind of see where it goes. Nothing too complicated.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. I'm a little bit more comfortable with more like the Joe Rogan style. If we just want to talk and
yeah, that's fine. That's what I like to do. Yeah.
I don't know what kind of time you have or how long you want to go or whatever, but
I normally about 50 minutes.
Start off with like a like a sales pitch, you know, I don't
Oh, no, you don't got to do a sales pitch. Just like,
networking thing.
no. Just like, what I have everybody do, because I don't like to do intros, and we're going to play with this year.
I thought we'd already started, to be honest with you.
No, I always talk to everybody for a minute. You wouldn't, but dude, I've had people sit here all about to throw up. I had one gal kept doing this, and I thought I was gonna have to catch her. I found out later there was a whole bunch of other stuff going on. I thought she was just that nervous about being on a podcast. That's one of the reasons I shifted it too away from the local stuff, is about 50 to 70% don't show up for their session. They get scared.
No,
they like freak.
I'm excited to see where this goes for you. I mean, it's definitely a sport and a topic that we could go on and on and on and on about forever, because it's been part of our lives for our entire lives, you know?
Yeah.
And we've known each other for, well, gosh, you're one of my original karate schools when I even started doing all of the photography. And
Oh, that's awesome. I didn't realize that.
How long ago was that? Really 10 years ago, I think, is when 2025,
7, 8, something
it would
like
have
that.
been at least 7 or 8 years ago when we started.
Yeah, because I started doing stuff with you right after we did Osborne's Heartland tournament. That was when, because me and him were joking on the podcast last week, because he chased me and chased me and chased me forever. And I was like, gosh, this guy will not quit commenting on. Every time I put up something with a tournament, and I'm like, oh, let's wait to see if this Osborne guy's on here again. Oh, hey, man, what's up with that tournament? Can I come by? Like, I'm like, delete. Finally, I'm like, all right, I'm going to go check this guy out. And, you know, it's been great. And, you know, we look forward to having you out every year. Everybody likes the pictures. You and I have talked about this a million times. The great thing about when you come out is I had other photographers before, and I would have to pose the kids or correct this and that. And they would almost get stressed working with them. Where you have so much fun, you make it so much fun. Half the kids all know you by name at this point. And then the product's great on top of it, but it's a fun experience. It's not, okay, let's make sure we get everybody lined up. Let's get them out here. Okay, I got to get them posed. Like, for me, the owner, I can just have fun with it too.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I think it kind of boils down to like my personality and my love for the sport.
Yeah.
You know, like it's, you know, I've been in martial arts my entire life. You know, I started with Ray Amanat in St. Louis in the 90s, I guess mid 90s for me. And the only reason I got into martial arts was my dad had done martial arts when he was a kid. And so when I kind of got to that age, I think he just brought me down to the karate school that happened to be right down the street. And it was the best thing, honestly, I think it's ever happened to me, because it really set me up for the rest of my life and my future. And it was an amazing school because we had a competition team, we did demos, and we really became a strong family. And I think that helped me so much in continuing with this sport. It's a tough sport to stick with for a long time. You know, there's so many school sports and sports that your friends are doing that kind of pull you away from karate. But the environment that I had with Ray Amanat and his school was like, this is it. There's no reason to go do anything else. This is fulfilling me as a person and as an athlete. You know, we were sponsored for a while, so we had a sponsored team, and we traveled all over the United States together, you know, competing and then doing things outside of the karate school. I know you're huge on doing those types of events, and I see a lot of that what I got in my karate school, in your school, and lots of other schools around the country. And I like to share those stories and make those connections, which just makes it so much easier to do the photography. Because that's the impression I want to give is, I'm just not your photographer. Like, I'm part of this community that we are all trying to build and grow. And I want to make that experience as amazing as I can for those kids. You know, even if I've gone to photo shoots where literally a white belt that signed up for karate that night signed up for pictures.
That's awesome.
You know, and like that's the target audience that you have to, on the very first day with somebody that doesn't know anything about martial arts, give them that lasting impression that this is a cool sport. I want to do this because this is so cool.
Yeah.
All the way to, so I bring that up because like working with a white belt that's never done a forward stance or a punch or a front kick ever on their first day is actually easier for me than working with most of you black belts.
Yeah, I bet. I feel like I'm the difficult one when you go to do photos. I'm like, no, I don't want to stand like that.
Because everybody thinks that we're judging you. You have to be perfect. You'll do a side kick 17 times just to make sure your toes are in the perfect position.
Guilty.
So I get it, but it's you never know what you're gonna get from beginners to advanced. I just try to make that experience as I would want it to be,
Well, and it helps too to make that connection and all those little pieces of the puzzle. It's not just showing up and kicking and punching. You said the experiences outside the school. When we competed in Cardiff, Wales a couple years ago, the last night we were all done. The tension had all melted and the teens were all bopping around each other's tables. The kids were talking, they were passing around pizza. And I started crying. And Casey's like, what is wrong? Are you finally breaking from this week? Because it was such a hard week. I was like, no. She's going away to college. She's taking college credit classes. Kendall's getting, they're never going to relive this moment. But every time in their life, when they get back together as adults, they're going to talk about this moment. And I know that because I have those moments. You have those moments that when you get with those people, you go back to it. And to know that that me wanting to kick stuff when I was a little kid has now turned into these moments, these life-changing moments for them, was huge. I couldn't hold it back. I was like, hope nobody's looking. I was like trying to wipe my eyes and everything. I was embarrassed, but I could just see it. And that's what's so important. They have that bond, and I talk to them about that stuff.
Oh yeah. One of the really cool things about what I get to do now is I get to travel all over the United States to karate schools all over the country. And one of the things that I try to do is I want to be able to reconnect with all of those old teammates, or those students, or those instructors. Anywhere I'm at in the country, even now, I could still give them a call or send them a message or something like that, and reconnect with them. I think the most recent one, when I was in New York, I was up doing Delaware and New York karate schools, and I happened to just stop in the city and met with a good old buddy of mine, Nuwan, that I hadn't seen in probably 20 years.
Oh,
but
wow.
We sat down for lunch, and it was like we just walked into class again.
Yeah.
And just kind of continued from where we left off. But what's really neat about that is like hearing what they're doing now, but then also they always make some sort of a connection back to martial arts. Like,
yes,
like not only did we try to develop you into a good martial artist, but like we'd also try to develop you into like a successful person, bring out the best in you so that when you do choose to leave the sport for whatever reason and go on with life, you've got more than just kicks and punches to be successful. And it was interesting hearing just the amazing stories of what he's gone on to do as a doctor, going overseas and helping, treat patients in third world countries and just all of that. But he always tied it back to what he learned in martial arts. And it's just amazing to see what effect our sport has on everyone, and that it develops these relationships that can last forever. It really can.
I explain that to my students all the time, that I've got friends all over the United States that I just knew them because we went to this one tournament and we were going to see each other. We didn't train in the same gym. Mm-hmm. We didn't have social media back then. It was just when I went to this tournament, I talked to Derek, I seen Kristen, whoever it was, and there's this lifelong bond. Later in life, some of those friends have gotten back into martial arts. Man, after their first class, I get a text. Hey, just got back into class. I'm like, and I'm excited. We jump on the phone. It's like we're still 15 at that tournament again. We're just right. It's like nothing's Our lives have completely changed, but nothing has changed. But then as all of us have kind of gotten over, a lot of us that I grew up with now, we're over our 40-year-old mark. I think we've really started to look back on that, and we realize that connection and those things, and we'll have conversations. Oh yeah, that wasn't bad. I remember training this in martial arts, like how that's affected our lives. And I think that's something as we grow a little bit older, we look back on. It's not about just kicking and punching.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, what was it? I saw this the other day. It was from the Office. I can't remember which character it was, but he says something like, we look back at the good old days, but I wish we knew when, like when we were in the good old days, when we were in the good old days.
Yeah. No, exactly what you mean.
Now, and if I guess if there's something I could take from that is with our younger, athletes and stuff that are really building those relationships, just reminding them, hey, these are the good old days. Just don't take it for granted,
I do that with my team, especially my teens. I'll be like, soak this up right now.
Yes.
And they're like, what do you mean? I'm like, I'm telling you, when you're my age, you're going to be like, I'm glad he told me to do that. I was like, enjoy it right now. And I try to remember that too, when we're we're training, we're teaching at school, to be like, they're going to let them enjoy it. Let them have fun, enjoy the moment, not get too carried away with it. But it's great for them.
Yeah, like a tournament's a good example of getting too carried away with results all the time, yes, or getting carried away with the politics involved in tournaments in our sport, and just reminding yourself none of that matters. Because I can tell you right now, 20 years later, I don't remember any of that politics and that, how I scored in this one tournament or something like that. But I can tell you how many times we sang happy birthday to somebody at Ponderosa when it wasn't their birthday. Like
awesome.
Those are the I can remember now, our team going down to Battle of Atlanta. We took 2 vans down there. I have no idea how I performed at that tournament, but I can remember every single gas station we stopped at, or wherever we stopped to take pictures. It didn't matter where we stopped. Somebody had to drop down into a cool karate stance or karate pose. It didn't matter what you were in front of, you just did it.
Yep.
And you showed off and you hung out. And
we made sure to do that in Canada this year to get out with the team more. And I remember we were out and they're like, what are we doing now? I was like, side kicks off a rock. We're martial artists. This is mandatory. There's a rock. It's hard to get to. It's in front of a cool scenic pose, scenic background. Like, there was a line of us waiting to kick. I'm like, you can't walk past this without kicking right now. We were laughing because when you went back through the photos, I was like, there's us kicking. There's our form. There's our stance. Like, but like you said, there's going to be a point where everybody's like, well, even when we talk about the tournament, like there was one point, one of the teens had to go to the bathroom really bad. And they finally went to the bathroom. When they came back out, I went running up. I'm like, they called you. And I handed them an American flag and they took off for the stage. It wasn't their turn. But we just did it because we were all just standing there. And I was like, hey, watch this. I'm going to get Emily. And she almost knocked people off the stage running up there because she thought she was her turn, until she realized that those people weren't her age group. And then I ran. Or us passing weapons back and forth. Those are the things that really we talk about. We don't really sit down and say, oh, well, I got this medal, I got that medal. It's that stuff. It's running this way across the gym and seeing one of our teammates that's on Team USA that maybe we don't know their first name, but we seen they didn't have a flag, so we palm them a flag as they run by, and then we catch up with whatever it was later. That's the moments you remember. Getting lost driving to a tournament, maybe, something like that. The mishaps or things that happen. And it's just how it builds that culture, though, and it builds those memories.
The only time I can remember like results is if Brandon Osborne ever beat me at a tournament. I'll never forget those moments.
There's always those. I remember at a tournament once, my instructor come up. She's like, "Hey, you guys stupid?" Like, what do you mean? She's like, we can read your lips. My buddy Seth and I were mouthing back and forth. We were like 16, 17. I was holding the trophy. I'm like, ooh, bet your girlfriend liked this trophy. We were just mouthing back and forth, and she pulled us aside. She's like, nobody's doing anything right now but watching you two morons. I was like, because we were just in our own little world just messing with each other, because and it went as far as years later when I opened my school. I put all the trophies in the window. I did the iconic thing everybody does when they get their first, and he sent me a DM. He's like, you want the first place that goes with all those? And I was like, oh, here we are. 15 years later, you know, we're grown adults and we're still that same debate we were having at that tournament that got us yelled at. I was like, oh, that's a good one. I was like, that was a good one. I just remember really getting a kick out of it because I was like, wow, 15 years later, we're still on that. Okay.
I like that you brought up trophies too. That's another thing I like to do when I travel around to different karate schools is if they have their trophies up, I'll look through them all and
Yeah.
try to see if like, okay, well, I have one of those, or I was at that one, and it's just fun seeing where your paths have crossed over the years. The trophy thing's kind of gone away though. A lot of schools don't really put their trophies out. It's more of your like your old school, like traditional,
Yes.
1990s style kind.
You put up a bunch of pictures at Mr. Osborne Senior School. You put up a bunch of pictures walking through it, and I was like, wow, that's a time capsule.
That's like,
I was excited to look through your pictures. I was like, I'm gonna have to swing in there sometime because that was really neat to see. I like that. I went to a school one time in Oklahoma, and they had, I mean, it was tacky, it was dusty, but he had stuff that was black and white hung up, and I was almost ashamed of his younger black belts for not cleaning everything and putting it up a little nicer, because it was literally a martial arts timeline from, I mean, I don't even know how far back it went. He was a much older grandmaster that it was the history in it. And but at the same point, it was dusty, it was dirt, it was not a great for selling memberships, having people come in and sign up at your school. It was very cluttered. But as a martial arts enthusiast, it was fun to walk through it and look at all the old stuff. It's very cool. You know, it's always really neat. I like when I go to a school too to find trophies of wood bases, because that shows you how old it is. It's like, oh yeah, you look for what, say, what
70s now.
My very first tournament trophy has a wood base, or my kids, Jocelyn, found it base, and it's like, what is this? I'm like, be easy with it. It's plastic and fake wood, and it's 30 years old. Like, give me that. That's my first one.
Oh yeah. Yeah, my first trophy. Okay, I think everybody can remember my first trophy was the 90s marble base plastic tower plastic karate guy on top of the cup. That was a pretty standard one in the 90s. But my dad, I mean, he cherishes every single one of his awards and trophies, and even now he has all of his trophies from when he was 18 years old on display in his den at his house right now. So
that's cool.
His are all wooden and falling apart and stuff.
Yeah, I've got the first 3 I won at my very first tournament, and then I couldn't tell you if the rest of them are mine or not. I put them in the window when I first opened the school, and the sun destroyed them.
Yeah.
We've got all the kids now. I got Ben and Jocelyn stuff all displayed in the garage, and I encourage parents at my school to do it. I'm like, if your child competes, put a display up. It doesn't have to be in the living room, but display it so they can cherish it. I was like, I've never met a student that quit that their whole room was decorated with their martial arts stuff. Like, if you're letting them live in it and understand it and be proud of their accomplishment, you need to display it. Put it up. I was like, you don't got to cover the whole house with it, because as we know, from some of the ones that you know and I know that compete all the time, like it gets to be a lot. But put them up. Let them cherish it. Let them enjoy that moment.
One of the coolest things I had seen as far as like showing off your awards is it was maybe a couple years ago going through Tennessee. Again, just calling up people. Hey, you want to get together for lunch?
That's cool.
I get a hold of Kira Jones's family. Hey, I'm passing through Clarksville. Let's get some food. And so I met them at their house. And of course, Kira, I mean, she's got how many grand championships?
Yes.
She's got more grand champions than I have trophies, I'm sure. And so I get a chance to kind of see what they did, and she's got the plaques and the pictures and the medals. But one thing that they did that I thought was really cool is, let's say you've got a bunch of awards from like 2024. You can take like parts of your trophies or your medals or all that kind of stuff, and they put them in a shadow box and then epoxied it.
Yep.
So it was like all just like frozen together in this
The
one.
2024 was a time capsule.
Yeah, like a time capsule kind of thing. And with it being all stuck together like that, it's not going to break or fall apart or something. And I just thought that was really cool. So fun
I
idea
stopped
for
them at a
parents.
tournament. Well, and I stopped them at a tournament and asked her what she did. I was talking to Kira's mom and dad, and I was like, hey, I got a question. I was like, she wins a lot. The heck do you guys do with these? And her mom was telling me, and I was like, because with Ben and Jocelyn competing and me competing with them still, like, it's getting a little to be a lot. And we've gotten creative with it, but they're also very young. I was like, by the time they're her age, I'm gonna be like, oh my gosh, another one. And she told me that. She goes, no, I break off this and do that. I was like, that's genius. Then you got just a plate. I was like, that is absolute genius. Now I'm gonna have a lot of them for Ben and Joss before I can start breaking up their awards, because I'm not gonna lie, that's gonna be a hard one. I don't like to tear anything up, but to break up an award by Kid God's gonna like gut wrenching. But I thought that was genius. She was telling me about like getting creative with how some of them hang to where you can like mix in multiple things together, which was a great idea. She gave me some of the most amazing ideas for that. For displaying them. And I tell the parents at my school that all the time. I'm like, as it kind of builds up, this is what she told me. I was like, it's awesome. And that shout out to them, because that was a great, simple idea too. And a fun way too to kind of talk about it, to look, oh, I remember that one. And maybe your friends come by that trained with you in 20 years, you got to play guess which tournament that was from, you know? That might be cool.
Yeah.
I think that'd be fun.
I think if I could probably narrow all of my awards and trophies. I think anybody could probably narrow it down to like the 10. I think you can narrow it down to 10 that you would never touch or do anything to. And then the rest of them, I probably could do something like that. It was funny because like my dad was so proud of all the awards that we got through doing martial arts together. He would display all of our trophies at the house, and they were there for a long time. And then I guess we bought our home in 2008, and I bet it was 3 months after I bought my house, my dad just showed up with a trailer. Didn't tell me, just showed up, said, here's all your trophies, get them out of my house. So now they're all down in my basement right now, and I collecting dust. I don't know what to do with them. Maybe I should make a little. Maybe I should do the whole get like 10 of them together and do one of those shadow box things or something like that.
I've got a bunch. I had the same thing after I opened my school. Like old students would be like, hey, I'm going away to college. I'm just stopping by. I'm like, oh, hey, congrats. You know, and they're like, I brought you my trophies. I'm like, oh, man, I got to store your trophies. But I've got a bucket at one point in time. When we first started doing tournaments with Osborne and different ones, we started a wall of medals. We had them all hung on the wall. Well, I took them all down, and I have them in a bucket. And it goes from location to location. It's now at my house. I can't bring myself to throw it away because I'm like, oh, that was Madison's when she was little. And oh, I remember when Sydney got that one. And they're still in a bucket. The other day, Ben and Jocelyn are like, is that an entire 5-gallon bucket of medals? I was like, yeah. They're like, what are you going to do with that? I was like, I don't know. I can't bring myself. It's just sitting out in the garage where we work out. I just can't bring myself to get rid of it.
House, you're going to bring them over.
Huh?
You're going to bring them to the house? Yeah, here you go.
Well, they're all getting to that like almost out of college stage by now too, the kids that were competing then. I think Trenton was probably the youngest. He's getting ready to go to college, or he's getting close. I think he graduates this year or next year. So I think another year or two of holding on to him, because Sydney's away at college. Like some of them, we get in that age where they're coming back and they're probably gonna be a little sentimental about some of that stuff, that they'll probably want them. Whereas when they were 17, they're like, you keep them, I don't want them. Because I know it'll be the day after I throw it away that they call. Hey, you got those laying around the school? Be like, oh, let me go chase the trash truck. Hold on.
You know,
but it's
these kids are, I mean, they're eventually gonna grow up and they're gonna get married, and you're gonna get invited to their weddings, and that's a perfect opportunity to just, here you go.
Yep.
Wedding present. I've been holding on.
I actually had an old student reach out last night. He's back in St. Louis, but he doesn't live close enough to train with me. He's well over an hour from me, looking for a school for his daughters. Now, he trained under me when I was an instructor. He came back and taught for me at my school for a little bit. I was in his wedding, the whole 9 yards. It's so cool to see that. I'm the godfather of one of my old students' daughters. You know, the connection you make and build over that lifetime of martial arts is huge. One of the favorite things of mine is clicking on the Taekwondo school now. I've had Warrior Academy 16 years this month. And it's cool to go back through my memories now on Facebook and see the old ones. Or, not too long ago, one of the first shoots we did with you popped up, and I was able to go back and look, and I'm like, oh, look how little they were. And, it's so cool to see those things and how it's just it just brings back all these memories, and I see that with the students now that I'm getting to that point in teaching. The school's matured and been there long enough that you really start to see that for martial artists.
I still have photos of everybody since I've started.
Really?
Yeah.
It's a lot of stuff to save.
Really fun, because I think really the first time I ever started doing the photos with the cool designs,
Yeah.
I launched it for the first time with just one design. One of the first times was at Ozark Mountain Nationals, where I went in, I did photos for all the grand champions in this one cool design. And I'm thinking about it right now. I mean, I got photos from probably that had to have been 9 or 10 years ago of like Casey Montgomery when he's a little kid, or Braden Seitz, or even like the Abernathy sisters. I've been taking photos of these athletes for so long that I could probably put together a whole timeline just like that of pictures. It's so neat because I've got families now that my photos are their annual family pictures.
Yes.
Every year. Like they over the years they have the progression and of their kids journey with the different belt ranks and everything just through their pictures. It's really neat. Like when we talk about those experiences, like I am terrible with names. I can't remember anybody's names, but I could probably like tell you what pose and what design you picked out for your picture last year. Because I just remember those experiences or something that we talked about or something like that. They'd be like, what did we do last year? I'm like, oh yeah, you did this design with the sword. And they're like, how do you remember? I don't know how I remember it.
I don't know.
I just do. I have no idea what your kid's name is, but I remember what pose they did.
Yeah. Some of us just remember things that way. And like you said, you could go through the timeline with your pictures. There's one of the first photos I think you did of us was Jocelyn after she was sparring, coming over, and I'm hugging her. And then that same tournament, you got her and Chloe, because I ended up, I think it was the same sparring match. I had to tap out because Chloe or Ava had to coach her for years because she would not listen to me. Still doesn't very well. But they would always coach her, and it's her with Chloe and Ava sitting there. And it's one of my favorite ones. It pops up, and it was an Ozark Mountain. It was either Ozark Mountain or American Karate. I can't remember which one. It's either at Mr. Norton's tournament or down there. You've got one of those. It's one of my favorite photos when it pops up every year, because, I mean, she just idolizes Chloe and Ava still to this day. And that bond and stuff that she made with them years ago, but it's in all the photos. I mean, she was 3, at least 3, maybe 4 in that picture. So it's going back. It's going back a ways. It's really cool how it does that. And when they pop up, just, as kids, we would see the movies, and then as the movies got better, you'd see special effects, and you always in your mind were that cool ninja and doing these things, and then your pictures bring that to life with the lights around them and the different. That's how, and I've tried to explain this to parents, like, that's how they see themselves in class. Like when they're in class, they don't see the kid punching, stumbling, or doing things. Like they see that picture. Like they're throwing punches, they've got green glowing around them, or whatever it is, So to see that come to life for them and bring that mental image for them is huge. I can't think of a photo, if you took their school photo and you took the one you take of the martial arts, hands down, they're taking that martial art one to show all their friends. Because they don't care if they're leaned against the tree with one foot on the tree, doing their typical scholastic photo shoot. But this other one, they've got a sword and they're all lit up and they're look like the assassin that just ascended from the clouds. It's huge for them.
Oh yeah. So you kind of brought up like what kids kind of like think they look like when they're at class and stuff like that. So like when you were younger, what motivated you? What did you feel like when you were in class? Was it a certain athlete or movies or,
Karate Kid,
like
hand down.
which what?
Hands down, the Karate Kid.
The Karate Kid, yeah.
We went. This 2025. People are gonna be like, I can't believe he said that. But we went and toured a couple schools, and we found a guy, one with a Korean master, and I was like, oh, there's an Asian guy. I'm sold. There were trophies, Asian guy, and like an actual dojo, because we went to some that were like a gym, and I was like, We walked in one that had trophies and Asian master, and I was like, I'm good. I was sold. I found what I wanted to do, and then when I would see the movies, like I remember one of the American Ninja movies, the bad ninjas had like red, yellow, whatever ninja thing. It wasn't black. And I just remember being like, whoa. And I remember like going out in the woods with my friends, and they were doing like army games in the woods where they were like wearing fatigues. So in my head, I was wearing one of those ninja costumes. Like I was like, I don't need a fake gun. Hands, that was my thing. What was it for you?
I was thinking about that, and I don't think I fell into like the Bruce Lee movies or Chuck Norris movies, which are all great. I just don't think that was like, being in the mid 90s, those were all pretty much before me. So like the movies I grew up with would have been things like Three Ninjas with the kids.
Yep.
What was it? Oh, I guess this is a Chuck Norris movie. That one, Sidekick, I think.
Sidekicks.
Yeah,
Sidekicks was one of my favorites. Yep.
But then I grew up with Power Rangers and stuff too, and Ninja Turtles. So everything for me was more like that. It wasn't like the gritty martial arts fighting and stuff like that. It was more that performance stuff where everything was fight scenes, like Jackie Chan style stuff, where it was very more cinematic stuff. And I think that's probably why I was more into the sport martial arts and the creative extreme divisions and the performances and the demos and the tricking and all that kind of stuff when I was a kid, because those were the kind of movies at the time that
makes sense.
I was growing up with. I don't know what are kids connecting with today? I have no idea. Cobra Kai?
Cobra Kai. Well, and I'll be honest, like we've got Justin and Jules coming in next weekend to do some training, but the guys 35 to 40, those dudes are the ones around town that are like, you've got the Karate Kid people coming, like they're watching it more than the kids are, I think. But they do, but martial arts is so mainstream now. Like there was maybe it was Allstate commercial the other day. Osborne and I talked about this, and one kid's running to get baseball stuff, one kid's doing this, and a little girl comes around in a karate gi. And I was like, oh, that's awesome. Because I explained to my students, like when I was a kid, I was the only kid in my grade. I think there was one other guy, Nick, that did martial arts somewhere, but we were the only two. Now my students train at martial arts, and I come out to their school and do classes with them at school. Like they all know it. It's oh yeah, you do martial arts. It's a household thing now. It wasn't like that when we were kids. It was still kind of coming up. I was the weird kid that kicked stuff. I didn't play baseball. Like my students now, it's just, oh, you do martial arts, that's cool. Or even for a lot of them, it's, oh, cool, I know Master Matt. Like they know me because I go to all the schools. So it's a different experience for them nowadays too. So I think we're starting to fall into that. Oh, do you want to do baseball, soccer, martial arts, football? What is your child into? It's not, whereas when we were younger, it was like, you put your kid in martial arts? Oh. Yeah. Like it was a weird thing, but that was the era when kids were starting to do it more. And I think that really helps.
I've definitely noticed over the years, decades, it does go in these waves. And you can feel it. Like as a school owner, obviously you can feel it if numbers are up or down. I've never owned a school though. So where I feel it most is like when I go to tournaments, if like the numbers are down in the tournaments for like a couple years and then they start to go back up and they kind of go back down. I know there's a lot of things that affect that economy and stuff like that, but a lot of it I think is really what we see on TV.
A good martial art movie, never heard of dojo.
Oh, right. Yeah. Yeah. No, that's incredible though, that you got those athletes coming out to your school.
Oh, we're excited. I'm so excited for my students to see them. Like I've trained with them, Ben and Jocelyn, we went to Vegas with Aaron Hensley with Rise, and Ben was horsing around and training with Justin Ortiz after we got done, and we went to dinner at night. He's sitting there with Justin talking, hanging out, and I'm like, he has no he doesn't fathom it till later in life, like the opportunities in martial arts that he's already getting at 11 years old, you know? To be able to take the example that those martial artists set and show that to the students and let them meet them and see that, hey, you know that tournament you're at? You know the night show we were at? The young lady it was leading everything? Oh yeah, she's in the movies now, and you guys know her, and oh, you get to hang out with her. She's this awesome, cool person. That's Jules. And look at all the cool things she's doing in the movies. You guys can do this too. Like, you don't have to quit martial arts at 17 to focus on a college degree somewhere and something you don't love. If you love martial arts and you're good at it, there are avenues out there. And I don't think people know that. I talk about one of your athletes that you photographed and done stuff with for years, Jonah. I absolutely love that kid. I got to see him the other day at a tournament. Was like, man, how's the knee? How's everything going? Like, but I remember my first tournament, watching him kind of stand there, very humble, quiet kid. And when he stepped on the mats and walked out, he popped his head up, had this little cocky look, and I was like, oh, I love this kid. And I'd tell my students, like, you got to watch him, and he's such a nice young man. But the way he gets up there presents, and then when you see them interact with the students, it's such an amazing atmosphere that martial arts produces and brings together. And, you know, being able to introduce the students, that is so cool. I just absolutely get over and above. I can't wait. And I feel like, and I think you'll agree with me on this, it's picking up. Like, we're definitely at a time where martial arts, everything is picking up. Events are getting bigger. Competitors are doing more. And sometimes I feel like because we live in that world 24/7, we tend to feel it more. I don't know, but I do. I feel like it is just going up and getting bigger and getting better and getting more impressive.
Oh yeah, I completely agree with you. I feel it right now. There's just so much more talk, so much more involvement. Teams are getting bigger. You know, kids are getting more involved with their karate schools and doing more with the karate schools and traveling more. Tournaments, I think, are picking up. I'm seeing a lot more new tournaments too.
Yes.
You know, I mean, that's not easy to just invest that kind of money into an event. And it's just saying that it's like in our sport, like, okay, yeah, now's the time you could do it. It's okay to take that risk and do it.
Well, and I think there's a lot of people teaching too. Like, something I struggled with was, as my school grew, how to maintain that we know each other atmosphere, and that creating those teams and doing so much stuff as the school got big. And I think there's a lot of people like Aaron out there that he's been teaching me how to do that with a big successful school, that you don't have to have only 40 students to have that close-knit feel. You can do it with 300 and 400 students. Mm-hmm. And that was the thing for me, like, as my school got big and I could survive off of it, then it was like, there was a disconnect where when we were only 40 of us, like Marlon's been with me 15 years, and we still talk about, like, back when there was 35, 40 of us, like, we did every holiday together. It was just so tight knit. And I'm learning now, and I think there's a lot of people out there teaching that. And Aaron's taught me that, how to maintain that at a bigger level so that I can not only impact 40 students, but 400, 4,000. Like, how can I take that impact and make it bigger and replicate that with a larger school? And I think a lot of us are learning how to do that and are able to pour our passion into it. And the days of, well, if you want a good dojo, you've got to work a day job and have a broke dojo at night. That's not true. You can do this for a living. I think those days are behind us. There's a lot of people that are learning that now. And I think that's increasing the sport in general tenfold.
Mm-hmm. One of the things that, and I'm glad you kind of brought that up, because I've had this discussion recently too. I believe that a karate school is more than just generating leads. I feel like that is obviously a big part of it. Like, you need to get your leads so you can, reach out to new students and grow. But I think a lot of it I've seen over the years might boil down to a little bit of, like, identity crises, like figuring out what makes your karate school special, and something like you can wake up and be excited about, like it really starts with not just the owner, but like the owner's attitude. And like, I can have this system that I've done for so long, and somebody can come in and tell me, okay, well, this new system works, but I also want to make sure it works, like, for me, and like figuring out like what makes me excited about teaching this system, and I think that each school is unique in that way, where we're trying to figure out kind of like what sets you apart, not necessarily from other karate schools, but like from where you were yesterday. Does that make sense?
No, it does. That was something when I realized that I didn't have to be, and I've talked with longtime students about it, when I realized that it didn't have to be a stuffy, all right, show up, get on the mats, do this. Like, there needed to be those other aspects. Like, I'm a social person. I'm a talkative person. Like, I needed to lean into that and enjoy myself when I teach. I realized that the thing that I was good at was teaching leadership skills. And when we started leaning into that more, I found that, well, there was a lot of people who were looking for that just putting up stuff about, oh, look how good our front kicks are. And that's not what people are looking for. And I even asked my students, I'm like, how many of you guys walked in the door because you wanted to have a better roundhouse kick? My older black belts, and they're like, I didn't know what a roundhouse kick was. I'm like, exactly. You came here because you wanted to work out, or you wanted to do something like you saw in a movie, or you were being bullied, or you were quiet. Everybody comes for different reasons. It's not, but I think after a certain point in time, we do it so long that we forget how to separate ourselves from the non-martial arts person. Because like you said, we've grown up with this. It's just what we do. Ben and Jocelyn have literally been, I have photos carrying Ben as a baby ring to ring while I coached at tournaments. Like, they know nothing else but this. Like, I know nothing else but this. I've been 32 years now. How do you, we sometimes got to forget to separate that. And I think when you figure that out, like you said, you can lean into what's your thing and what excites you, then that value is there.
So how is it being a martial arts school owner, instructor, and of your own kids?
Osborne and I talked about that too, because he was like, I didn't like going to class. He goes, my dad made me go to class. I'm like, good. That's probably what Ben and Jocelyn are going to say at one point. I tell parents all the time, training my own kids is the hardest thing I ever have done. They're to the age now, they listen better. Jocelyn especially. Jocelyn's learned that this is her thing with dad, and she's cool with that. She likes it. She listens to a point. Especially she trains one-on-one now with Caitlin Deschelle every week. Caitlin trains her virtually, and I'll pop my head over the screen. I'll be like, Caitlin, can you say that louder? Caitlin's like, oh, has dad been telling you to do that? Jocelyn will roll her eyes, because I'll just be walking by and I'll hear Caitlin correct her on something, and Jocelyn will cut her eyes to me, and I'll poke my head over the screen. I'll be like, Caitlin, can you say again? Dad wants to hear that. And we get a good laugh, because it is hard. It's very hard. And the thing I have to remember, they're going to do this their whole life. I can't burn them out. I can't make it not fun. And I see their potential because they've done it since they could walk. There are things that they can do when they finally figure it out that they can do that someone starting at 12 and 14 is probably never going to do. Mm-hmm. Because it's just ingrained in them. Ben's been playing around on the mat sparring since he was 2.5. Like, there's movements he can do if he wanted to actually lock in and do it that other people are not going to understand that distancing for years. But I have to remember sometimes he's 11, like let him do his thing. Like, not be so hard. Like, I almost take it personally offensive if he's throwing punches sloppy, because I'm like, dude, everybody's looking at you. Your dad owns a dojo. Knock it off. Like, quit throwing them like that. And I have to remember to take that step back, cool down. I'll walk. The parents have had an enjoying time watching me teach Jocelyn since she was little, because she will purposely do things just to get under my skin. And they have giggled since she was 3. They're like, we just love coming to class when she's here. I'm like, you guys love watching me almost completely melt down and lose my shit in the class. And they're like, yeah, it's fun. I'm like, oh, how was it? Now, see, I was lucky. My dad was not a martial artist, so I never had to deal with that. A lot of people assume that because of my long time in it, that, oh, your dad must have been into it. My dad was anti-martial arts. I couldn't get him to put me into a school till I was 10. And he was like, all right, you won't do anything? Let's go. We'll put you in martial arts. I would not quit kicking stuff. I would not quit playing karate around the house. He finally just caved. He was of a generation, a lot of guys he came up with learned martial arts during Vietnam, came home, were really mean, used it for bad, to just beat people up in fights. It was a totally different generation. My dad's 40 years, I was his 40th birthday present. So he's much, much older. How was it having a father that did martial arts? Like, did he train with you at all, or?
My dad got back into martial arts when I got I want to say my brown belt, because he had gotten his brown belt from Fred Wren. And so when he, when I got up to my brown belt, that's when he made the decision that, okay, now we can get our black belts.
Oh, that's cool.
And so I was really fortunate that my dad and I got to test for our black belts together at the same time.
That's really cool.
Incredible. So we continued through the ranks of brown belt, and then we tested for black belt, and then he continued training and stuff like that. And eventually I think it kind of died off after I got my second degree, and then I went on and did, real life stuff for a while, I guess.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, yeah, it was pretty cool experience. Now my daughter does not do karate. We tried. I tried to be her instructor when she
Yeah.
was like 5, and we quickly learned that um that wasn't going to work. that
It's
was
hard.
going to work. Even at 5, her and I were not getting along too well when it came to instructor student.
At 5, Jocelyn, it was like
Yeah, it was.
Ben and I at 5 was different. Father son at 5 was fun. Father daughter at 5, ugly.
And so like that's fine. I mean, for me that was fine.
Yeah.
I didn't mind. She at the same time, we some friends of the family did cheerleading. And so she wanted to go try cheerleading, and she found her sport.
That's awesome.
She found her sport. She's been cheering since she's been 5, since she was 5 years old. She's 12 now. And she, just like I did, I traveled nationally and competed nationally. She's doing that as well. So she gets to go 6 or 7 times. We'll be in Indianapolis this weekend. We've got Dallas,
Wow.
Orlando, Chicago, Kansas City. We go all over the country, just like if we were a national karate team going to US Open or Diamonds or Warrior Cup or something like that. So
Wow.
she's definitely like, I would say she's like, she does, I guess, like the NASCA of cheerleading. Like she
Yeah.
competes at the highest level. And I have found that I am a way better cheerleader coach style for her than I am
Yeah.
a instructor dad thing.
Yeah.
I just
That's awesome.
like she doesn't, and this is tough. She doesn't need me.
Yeah.
She doesn't need me for it. All she needs is the
Uh-huh.
hugs and the cheers and the excitement. When it comes down to the technical stuff, the lingo, the training, I
She's
can't
got
be
it.
involved. Yeah, she's
Yeah.
got it. I don't need to be involved in that whatsoever. That is tough. That is tough for
Yeah.
somebody like me. It took a
Uh-huh.
while for me to figure it out, but once I figured it out, man, it made it just so much easier for me mentally to just relax. you
Just to be
know,
dad.
just
Yeah.
relax. Like I am not the parent that always sticks like their phone up in front of their face and records every single
Yeah.
thing. I don't do that. I just leave the phone in my pocket, and if we're at a cheer competition, I watch. I just watch. You
Yeah.
know, I do go to some of her practices. I think she's been doing it long enough now, and she's at that age where I don't need to really sit there and watch
Yeah.
every single practice. And for me, if I were to go do that, I feel like it would take away some of that surprise excitement stuff when it comes to the competition. Because with cheerleading, she doesn't get, it's not like you can go sign up for 7 divisions at a karate tournament and do creative and extreme and
Yeah.
traditional weapons and musicals and all that kind of stuff. They compete twice.
Wow.
That's it.
There's no room for error there.
One for 3 minutes, and that's it. That's the whole day right there. And then they'll compete on day 2 for 3 minutes.
Wow.
That is their competition. And I mean, it works for cheerleading because there's so much.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
It's a team sport, but like, I want those 3 minutes to be just so like refreshing, exciting, like I've never seen it before. Like my
That's
wife, on the other
awesome.
hand, she can watch it and she can tell you, "Oh, hey, did you guys change something with your routine tonight?" I would have no idea. I really wouldn't. And I like that because then I don't have to, I don't want to be critical. I don't want to be judging it and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I just want to look at it.
You just get to enjoy it.
That was awesome. That was awesome.
That's got to be a cool feeling too, coming up with martial arts where you know so much about it and you see the athletes and you see so much, to go to something like that to where you can just enjoy it as the spectator and as just the parent. Whereas if she was into martial arts, you'd be like, ooh, let's work on that footwork. Let's, you know, there would still be like that part of your brain going. You can't turn it off.
Yeah.
I'll purposely ignore when Ben and Jocelyn do their one-on-one, when their private lessons this year, because I've got them both training virtually outside of me. I'll purposely like find something at the desk to do, and I try to avoid it unless all of a sudden Jocelyn will flag me over because there's a question or something, but I try to stay out of it so I can enjoy just, oh, this is what it's like to be the parent. Hey, your sword form looks really good, or I'll bring them out in the garage and just watch, and I'll you know, just be there to support them. Try not to be like, no, no, no. You know, I'll give them a little tidbit, but I'm not, you know, like try just to be the parent and enjoy it with them. And that's got to be really fun with her to be able to experience that side of it.
Oh yeah. So I'm glad that she found something like I found. You know, I had
That's
the
cool.
martial arts and stuff. So I'm glad that she found the cheerleading, and we still get to travel, and I still get to experience all that stuff I wanted to with my kiddo. It's just in a different sport. So
yeah. Well, now, and I mean, you've been in martial arts. It's been your whole life. You've built these businesses around it. So now balancing that with her cheerleading, I mean, and you travel a lot with the photography and stuff. Like, I didn't even think about that until you just said it, because I see you all over the place doing the photos. I didn't even think about it, but then when you're not doing that, you're doing a cheerleading. That's a lot of traveling.
Yeah. One of the things that I told myself as a parent is I was not going to let my company take over my entire life, and I didn't want to miss things. So I said, I will not miss any of her cheer competitions. And I haven't. I've not missed one. There have been times where I will be out on the road traveling, doing photos. I will fly to wherever her competition is for that weekend, and then fly back so I can continue my photo tours. This weekend, Warrior Cup's a tough weekend for me.
Oh yeah.
The same weekend as one of my daughter's biggest competitions is in Indianapolis. So we're talking thousands and thousands of cheerleaders. And it's always the same weekend as Warrior Cup. So, this is what I'm talking about this weekend. I've got a new t-shirt I'm launching with another featured athlete this weekend at Warrior Cup. So tomorrow, we are going to Indianapolis. I'm dropping the family off, and I am going to Warrior Cup tomorrow night. I will be in Chicago tomorrow night to do this for the companies. But then I'm going back to Indianapolis. I'm not going to miss that. I'm going to drive right back down. I think it's a 3-hour drive. I'm going to go right back down to Indy so that I could be there for cheerleading. You know, I'm not going to miss that. So it can be tough sometimes, but it's just one of those, what is that called? Like those personal like rules. Like it's like the thing that I stick by.
Your motto.
Yeah, it's like I agreed to that. I'm gonna stick to it. I'm not gonna start giving myself excuses, you know. And I've just accepted that. That may I don't know. That may hurt the business. I don't know, but it's just one of those things I've just accepted. You know, I'm not gonna.
Yeah, but you can always do more business. You're never going to have another child. You're not going to have another her. Like you can't, I have to remember that too at times. And there's been one of my first goof ups this Friday, I scheduled, because of the snow that hit us, I moved some meetings around, and actually Friday night is a chamber banquet. Casey's not getting an award. She's passing off because she was the president. I'm not going to be there because we have meetings at the school. Now, if she was getting an award, I would have canceled them and been there, but it's very rare that I double book like that. And I did that, but if it would have been something for the kids, I would have had to cancel it, because I'm like, I agree. You've got to set those in there. You've got to have that. And you know, one of the cool things with being in business that I think sometimes people get so caught up in the hustle, build, grow, that they forget that that's why it is your own business. You are an entrepreneur, because you can say, yeah, I'm not working this weekend. Oh,
yeah.
No, not. And it took me forever to do it. My instructor, when I first opened, I remember I was like, no, I'm going to open this holiday. And he's like, listen, this is going to be your whole life. I get it. You're single now. You have nothing better to do, but don't close the school. No one's actually going to come to class. They're just saying that. Go home. And I look back on it years later, I'm like, that was really good advice, because I didn't. I opened anyways. I had nothing better to do. I just didn't want to sit in my apartment. I was bored. And years later, looking back, I'm like, okay, I should have taken a little more time for just me to have, you can't let it engulf it. But when I took something I loved so much, made it to a business also, it was really hard to do that. And then with you, with photography, and then the clothing brand, the clothing line wrapping into those tournaments, yeah, that's got to be really hard, because those big tournaments are big for you.
It's what we call it, growing pains. Like I know I'm in the right direction, but I'm still learning. That balance. It's the balance between like work, family, and like yourself too. Like just taking care of yourself,
Yes.
physically, mentally, emotionally, all that stuff. Taking that time to take care of you, so that the other things are much easier. I'm still trying to learn that balance now. Yeah.
It's hard. This past week, with the kids were off school for 2 weeks for the holiday. Then we had the snow. And I said, I'm not working. I'm gonna do some stuff, but I'm not going to do my usual, get panicky because the weather's making us slow and go into grumpy mode, so I gotta work. And we would play Uno every night, and we'd make Ninja Creamies, and we would hang out, and we'd go out in the garage. I'd just watch them do their stuff. I'd be like, yeah, I do 30 minutes of sword. That's it. We're not gonna completely stop. And I didn't go up and repaint everything at the school or scrub the mats with a toothbrush. I think on the final Sunday, I went up and scrubbed the mats. But I did very well at just enjoying time with my family. Getting up and sitting and watching TV with the kids a little bit in the morning while they had a bowl of cereal. Not getting up and just bursting out of the house first thing to go get my workout done, pat them on the back. And it took a week. But by the second week, I was really looking forward to it. The first week was hard. I kept throwing my phone in the other room and trying not to have it at the table with me. And it was hard, but then I enjoyed it. It was the first time in years where I've been able to enjoy that. Like, we have a night where we cancel class because of a storm or something. I feel like I've got to go home and work on the dojo. I can't just go home and turn everything off and take my night off too. And I was able to do that. And I think that is something important that we all do, and we understand how to do that. You're pretty good, I feel like, when you are at the events, you'll leave your booth and talk to people, and you still have fun at tournaments. I lock myself. We have the fair every year, and people are like, have you seen the back area of the fair? And I'm like, I can't leave the booth. I might miss a customer. And they're like, you can chill out, bro. I'm like, no, and I won't. I'll be like, I've got to pee, and I'll run to the bathrooms and back, because I don't want to be away from the booth. You're good about actually kind of come up talking to us. I'll be standing there. I'm like, oh, what's up, man? And we'll get to talk. You still find a way to enjoy the event.
It's good that I do that, but who do you think it's left at the booth?
Oh yeah, no, I wasn't gonna bring that part up.
Oh yeah, I'm doing a good job. Yeah. No, yeah. It's because I'm still a fan.
Yes.
I'm a fan of our sport. So yeah, I understand I'm there to take pictures and work and stuff like that. But man, I'm so immersed in it that I do just enjoy going and just watching karate. Like I may not even really know who they are or something like that, but I there's so many times. Okay, so I'm the kind of person that also likes to look for maybe the underdog, or I don't know, maybe that student that obviously they're the only person from their karate school that's there, and they just wanted to try a tournament, and they have no idea what's going on, or just anything like that, or maybe they're just doing a kata that they made up because they're the only kid in their school that wants to go to a tournament or something like that. I always find myself finding those athletes.
That's cool.
And without being like an arrogant, I'm a grandmaster kind of person, what I say goes, I I have no problem just like sharing what advice I can with a student or a parent and say, hey, like maybe you want to try something like this or something like that. And just seeing that kid and seeing that what they want to do and what makes them feel good and why they showed
Yeah.
up, just like trying to take that and maybe like, okay, I see what you're doing. I think that's great. Maybe try something like this. So I always find myself, maybe that's part of why I like to go out there and watch and stuff like that. Cause
Yeah.
I hope that there's still some sort of knowledge or motivation or wisdom that I can still, put out there and
Well, and you're still able to make that a good event for that person.
like, huh?
You're still able to make it a good event for that person too. You never know the positive impact. We've all been there before.
Those situations, or maybe it is just like watching Jonah deflip. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, there's those moments too where I was, oh, it's one of those things too. Oh, what's that called? Where like you wish you were them or something like that. Like I was doing the tricks, but I was never at Jonah's level,
Yeah.
his age. You know what I'm saying? So like
Yes.
to watch a competitor like him and there's a lot of others that are at that
Yes.
level and go, oh man, I wish I could do that. I still have that feeling.
Yes.
Even at
It's
40
just that
years
level
old, I'm like,
of the
oh
love
gosh,
of
I
it.
wish I could do
Yeah.
that. So like a good example, and I hate bringing it up, but Jonah at Battle of Atlanta this last year. I know he got hurt, but just to be ringside with everybody at that same moment when he was competing was just insane. Just
I bet.
insane. Like the whole place was losing their minds.
Well, when he got hurt at Warrior Cup, I tore my living room up.
Oh, do what now?
We were streaming it. I'm like, what? I like went nuts in the living room. I was like,
I was
I
standing
was
right
freaking
next
out.
to
I'm
his
like, I love that
dad.
kid. What happened?
I was standing right next to his dad, and we're gripping like they got the metal rails, the fence
Yeah,
things,
yeah.
like you'd see it like a festival or something like that. Him and I are grabbing it, and we're like shaking it like this because we're just like, because he just looked at his dad.
Oh,
Oh my gosh, and then he did his flip routine and landed on his knee. If he would just stop landing on his knee, I think he'd be fine. But yeah, I mean,
it's the love of the sport, though, and it's the love of going there. I get more excited to go to the tournaments sometimes. I feel like some of my students do. I'm excited to watch them. I'm excited to see everybody at Sensei Kramer's tournament last year. We had like a lull of no tournaments, and I was just all excited. Everybody started coming in. I looked at Kendall and Emily and them, and I'm like, all our friends are here today. And they were laughing at me. I'm like, I'll be back. Don't do anything stupid. And I took off to just go see everyone because we just hadn't been in a tournament together in what felt like ages. But I was just so excited. People started coming in because Mr. Kramer's tournament brings in people that normally don't come up to the Midwest sometimes. So I was getting to see some faces that I haven't seen in a while, and I was just super excited, and they were laughing at me because I was just having such a blast. I'm like, you guys got to understand, I love this. I absolutely love every minute of these tournaments. I love being here. I love seeing our friends. There are kids that I've been in the ring coaching one of my students, but now I know these other kids from other schools, and I'm excited when they win too. Even if they win against one of us, I'll high five them. I'm like, that was great. We love what it is, and that's what's so important about it, is just loving that and being able to still enjoy that after all these years is great. I love it when I see the guys in their 60s and 70s coming out, because I'm like, man, that's going to be me one day. I'm going to be that person that's loving this.
like me competing last year against you guys.
Oh. But
so being a fan of the sport, one thing I try to do if I can and is when I'm on the road doing photography, I I stop by tournaments.
really cool.
Like for a perfect example of this is last year when I was in Texas. I was doing a bunch of schools down there, and one of the schools I was doing photos at was getting ready for a tournament that weekend. And I was like, "Oh, well, that's cool. Where is that?" Like, it's like 45 minutes from where we were at. I was like, well, I have that day open. I'll go to the tournament. I'll go check it out. And
That's cool.
so I go to the tournament, and it's a normal tournament, school gymnasium kind of thing. Um, and I can tell that they're just like every karate tournament. We need black belts to judge. So I go over and I introduce myself to the promoter, and I say who I am and why I'm there and all this kind of stuff, and just offered, hey, if you'd like, I can help judge. And so um they put me in a ring. It was the 11 and 12-year-old division, beginner, intermediate, advanced. I think there was a black belt division for that age as well. And this was just the division to watch down in
Oh,
Texas.
cool.
That age group, that at that tournament, it was incredible. We did forms. Everybody looked great. Weapons, all that stuff. Everybody looked great. But then when we got down to the fighting, we were short judges. So we're getting ready to start the division, and there's only two judges standing there, the center judge and then me. And I go, hey, are we waiting on another judge? Because in my experience, it's always been 3 or 5 judges.
Yeah, for sure.
Just 3. And he goes, oh no, man, if we don't have a third judge, we just don't have a third judge. We're just going to run it. And if one of us doesn't call the point, they don't get a point. It's either 2 judges or no point, And I'm like, okay, all right, let's do it. I mean, they're like, this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna do. Like, for them, it was just like, we're gonna get it done. And everybody at the tournament, parents, students, they all just understood that that's how it goes. And so we're running this division, and it's the 11 and 12. It was the advanced belt division. Man, these kids are just rocking each other. I mean, they're hitting square in the face, and they're kicking, like, just laying kids out. And there was one point, and this is awesome. And I kind of feel like this is kind of like Texas sparring. One kid just got
I've been some tournaments down there, yeah.
Right in the face. And the kid's probably, I can't remember. He was obviously like crying, and like he was upset, that he just got popped in the face. And I look at the center judge and I go, hey, is there face contact? Like, and because, in that age group and stuff, in my experience, if there's, it would be a penalty if you punched a kid in the face. We're trying to hit certain targets.
Yeah.
The look that judge gave me, and he goes, it's karate. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is Texas fighting. They don't care. It's karate. They're going to hit each other in the face. It's awesome. So from there on, I was like, all right, hit him in the face. Let's get some points. Point.
Yeah. I love that.
Like, that look he gave me and said it's karate just made me like, it just opened me up. I was like, okay, this is what I've been dreaming of my whole life. And it was a wonderful experience. And then afterwards we got to kind of talk, and I said, I never told them where I was from. And I go, yeah, I'm down here from St. Louis. And they just paused, and they're like, you came all the way to our tournament from St. Louis? And I'm like, well, I mean, I'm in the area already, but yeah, I am in St. Louis. But when they heard that somebody was just showing up to their tournament and was willing to help, like, it was just so cool. Well, no, I mean, it was cool for me, but like, it was kind of neat that they were just so like accepting.
Well, it's cool if they let you do it, because that'd be if I was a promoter and someone came up and I didn't know them, it would be a hesitation. It'd be like, well, I don't know, do I want to do this or not? Because you don't know what you're getting. I not too long ago had my first run-in with someone claiming to be a black belt, coming into school to sign up. And I was like, well, I'm going to see your belt. And he was like, well, my instructor passed away. And I was like, no, he didn't. I know who he is. And I was going to start, I was going to start digging through my phone and make some phone calls, because I didn't have the gentleman's cell phone number anymore. And I was like, let's bring your black belt and stuff in, and he brought in an Amazon black belt. And I just stood there and looked at it. I was like, all right, I'm gonna have to have a talk with this guy after class. Now, he never came back after that class. I think my face gave it away that I knew it was an Amazon belt, but you just never know. You know, we had a guy pull up one night, he come in the school, and the girls, I had two girls working the desk with me, they were like 18, 19, and I leaned over and I'm like, do not ask him about his shirt. And they're like, or his ninja. And they're like, huh? I was like, don't ask him. And they're like, what are you? And so I started talking to the guy and everything, and you could tell he kept looking at us because they kept reading his shirt. And it said something about ask me if I'm a ninja or something like that on it. And he was a little off, he was a little weird. He left and they're like, okay, what's the deal with the shirt? Well, it's one of those where you pull it over their head inside out and it has a ninja mask on the inside of it.
Oh.
You ever seen that t-shirt? Well, I told them, I was like, don't ask him. As soon as he come through your door, I'm like, do not ask him about his t-shirt. Oh. And so the whole time, so when he left, they're like, all right, what is the deal? And so I Googled it. And they're like, oh, thank you. We did not need him to pull his shirt off. Because that's what he was wanting. Because he kept looking at them, looking at me like, why isn't anyone asking about my shirt? I was like, no, bro.
I like the feedback.
So it does, it puts you in a...
Yeah, United's not going to come out with a ninja shirt, okay? I think we're going to pass on that one.
You're like, I think we got a new idea. No, it's just, you always are hesitant in that situation when someone's like, well, I'm a black belt, I'm traveling from out of state, you know, if you need help. You know, so for them to be inviting and let you in, it was a great experience for you, great experience. So that's awesome that they were that open-minded. And what you say about Texas sparring is true. Our first time we did a UTA tournament with the UTA of Senior Master Wadley, and I was standing there with some of the parents in the men's black belt division come up, and I was standing there. I was actually corner. I was a corner judge, and they had a fighter fighting. I'll think of his name in a minute. We both know him. I didn't know him back then, but I got to watch him fight. But the guys come up and they're standing there, and the one mom's like, what are they doing? And I was like, they're getting ready to spar. She goes, he's standing there with his gi tucked into a pair of karate boots. He's got a pair, tucked into cowboy boots. And dude just standing there, had his black belt on, had his gi, had his uniform tucked into his boots, and had his gloves and a pair of karate boots sitting there. And I said, they're getting ready to fight. She goes, well, where's the chest gear and the fey? I'm like, we're in Texas. Yeah. And she goes, what? And they bladed up. They got out there, they set up, they had gloves, they had boots. And I mean, she was trying to hand her phone number out. She was, because they just had on cowboy boots and a gi. She was like, oh, my heart, you know, and then they got up and fought without helmets. I was like, man, that's some Chuck Norris stuff. This is pretty cool. The next year they made everybody wear helmets. I was bummed because I thought that was pretty dope. I was like, well, that's kind of neat because I fought full contact several times. So, you know, I was like, hey, less gear, this will be fun. And it was cool. But I love that, you know, this is karate. Like, why would you ask me that question? Yeah.
Just looked at me like I was like, what? Like,
I always do that if I have like a grandparent come to visit. They're like, yeah, I did karate back in the day, blah, blah, blah. I always am like, well, it's been 40 years. Things are a little different. I have 5-year-olds in class. So keep your facial expressions to yourself. I understand this is not what you did. And, you know, it has changed a little bit. You know, even the Taekwondo style I came up in, my instructor had explained to me that when he first opened his school, he said, we beat the hell out of each other. He said, you couldn't get students. You beat them up. They didn't sign up. Like it was a different world than it is nowadays for them.
We definitely had that aspect of karate at our school. Like we could do the point fighting, but man, if you wanted to have one of those nights where everybody just beats on each other, nobody had a problem with it. You know, we understood, yes. You know, sometimes you just got to do it. So in the intermediate ranks, like the advanced ranks, when I competed, I was definitely I was into the sparring. That was definitely my division right there. And at that time, you know, everybody has like their sparring style, but like our school, the way we kind of learned was a little bit more like kind of reactive, I guess, where we weren't defensive. Like for example, like Tracy's karate fighters are extremely like defensive fighters. They really like to lean and use that defensive sidekick and then pick their moments, you know, to maybe throw a reverse punch or something like that. Where we were more active, you know, with the probing and the angles, you know, and the parries and stuff like that. where, yeah, sure, we would have some offense, but for a lot of the times it was like moving around, and we would, like, if you threw that round kick, we were switching to the other angle and then countering big. Oh, there we go. Counter fighters. We were definitely big counter
Counter
fighters.
fighters. Yeah.
That was my big thing, was counter fighting. And that was very, very successful. But then as I like progressed in the ranks and grew up a little bit more, and then started practicing more with, the weapons and the extreme martial arts and the flips and stuff like that, then it became more of like the focus was the performance aspect of it.
Yes.
And then not so much the fighting anymore. So like we had a lot of, and the reason I'm even saying this is I'm trying to get to the point of like full contact was never like something I would ever have done.
Yeah.
Even though like it seems like a natural progression in martial arts to like take it to the next level and do
Yeah.
like the MMA and the full contact. For me, I had absolutely no desire. For me, it was all about like the performance and do it, pretending like I was in a movie or something like that.
Yes.
So for you, like, how was that full contact? What did you like about it and stuff?
I didn't like anything about it. I got into it because as I was getting older in martial arts, the circuits and stuff we were doing, no one was competing at my age group. I didn't have anything to do. So I tried different avenues. I tried doing CrossFit. I tried doing things to compete. Well, to scratch that itch for me, I like competing. I like training, and I found a kickboxing gym. So it was like, sure, I'll fight full contact. And I did a couple fights, but now with my students, as we came up, we started kickboxing. We went down, I've had a couple do full contact. Both kids, both teenagers, I should say, they weren't kids. One got a flash knockout in his first full contact fight and struggled with it for several months. And that was it for me. I was like, we're done. We're not going to keep going this avenue. I don't want anybody to get hurt or any big injuries to happen.
So like I enjoyed doing like the performance side of everything. Like,
Yeah.
if I were to, how some people are like, oh, if I could go back and do it again, I would have liked to have like, I'd have done the movies. I would have hands down.
Yes.
Everybody I competed against as I was a kid are all in freaking movies now, So I would have gone that route, but you had started doing like that full contact fighting.
Yeah.
Then we had some fighters and stuff like that at our school that did the kickboxing. That was not, I had no desire for that at all.
Well, I did it for a minute because I enjoyed the competition part of it, but I quickly realized that it wasn't where I wanted to go. I had one student get hurt, and I was pretty well done with it. It wasn't what I wanted to do. I'm dealing with kids that are getting ready to go to college and go off to other things. But I agree with you. If I could go back and do it again, I didn't realize Power Rangers was getting big. Not that I could have been a Power Ranger, but they had all those extras that they fought with all the time that, what was it, a putty in the gray suits. I could have done that. I could have went that avenue of my martial arts, but it was always portrayed that if you're going to do anything with martial arts and make a living, you just had to have a school. And so I wanted to teach, and that really never even crossed my mind till I got older. Now, as we're with Ben and Jocelyn, I'm like, hey, you guys really work at this and look at it. Maybe that could be you on the big screen one day. I try to always show my students where futures are with martial arts. What are some cool things they could do with it? It's not just train till you get your black belt and quit. It's not just train till you go away to college and then quit and then talk about it when you're 30 about how back when you were 14 you did martial arts. Like, if you truly love it, let's make it, here's things you can do as a career. You could teach, instead of getting a part-time job, you could teach at the school with me. All my instructors are paid. There are avenues out there for people. And I think that's something that people like ourselves that have grown up in it that kind of go, oh, I wish I would have, are now able to fix. You've taken your love of martial arts, you have the apparel company, you have the photography, like you've turned it into so much more, but it's still incorporating that love of martial arts.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I think it's a mindset though, where like for the longest time, we never thought that like martial arts is a career.
Yes.
Like everybody says when they're the kid, they want to grow up and be a firefighter or a police officer or a doctor or a movie star or, a musician, a rock band, all that kind of stuff. They never say I'm gonna grow up and be a, a karate guy or something like that. So I think it's just like we're in this kind of like evolution of our sport right now where we're trying to market that a little bit more and like present
Yes.
that out in the public. And you said we're like on this rise right now. And I feel it. And I feel like there's this mentality that's starting to kind of change a little bit where the old school thinking was when you get your black belt, now you're going to start teaching for me, you know?
Yes.
And
Yes.
now I feel like we're getting to that we're starting to understand that, okay, now you got your black belt. Would you now like to start working for me?
Yes.
I love what I've developed you into. Like now let's talk about, you know, putting you on a schedule and paying you. You have all this knowledge. Get some money for it now.
Well, and not just paying them to teach, but then, building it out to where they can get paid to compete. You can help sponsor them to compete. You can help take care of it because that is setting that example for the students. Several of my students, they go to do stuff. It's like, here's your new weapon. Here's this, here's that. How can I help you guys do this more? Because it is helping me. When Kendall would get out there and win something with her sword, that would inspire other students to do that.
Mm-hmm.
I think sometimes that can be abused. People don't realize that they need to, if I build up the school and it's really successful, and then that gives me the money to then take my team and go do more training, and they're learning more. We're getting ready to head to Arizona with Rise, and we're going to train with Jules and with Justin and with Aaron and with Haley. Reed's going to be there. Like, so many people are going to be there that it's a huge opportunity. And I've explained to my students, my instructors, if the school is huge and I get a phone call, there's an event like that, well, what if I could just write the check and we all went for the week? And you guys got to train with some of the best in the world and learn all this stuff because I'm pouring into you. Then we're going to go to tournaments. You're going to do better. You're going to come back. You're going to teach. You're going to look better. I get that. I explained that to them when we're having these workshops every Saturday and we're growing the school. Like, I'm doing it. So when I get a call, hey, can you bring your team to Vegas to train? I could do it. I could write the check and we just go. That's my goal, is to pour that back into them, not just have them come in and teach. It's like, no, I'm good teaching. I like to, you guys come in and help me. That's great. But let's compete. Come up here and train. I want to do things so you can do better. Because it helps all of us. It helps the sport. It helps your school. It helps the kids. It helps everything.
Yeah, I've seen over the years how I think you said it best. It can be abused, like making it part of your requirements now that you have to teach and things like that. I see where there's like, okay, we're gonna get deep here, all right? Why can't you earn your black belt and then continue to just be a student?
Yes.
Is there an option now, or should a black belt immediately become an instructor? I don't know what the rule is on that, or what the should do's and shouldn't do's. I don't know. So I'm just kind of throwing it out there. I don't know what the answer is to that.
Well, the way I do it is when you become a black belt, any student can join Leadership Academy and learn to lead and teach and help with classes. And it's not just leadership in the school. I have the Guild as a group by us that comes in and actually teaches mindset with them. That has nothing to do with them teaching my classes. My leadership program is not, here's how you come in and help me run my dojo. Mm-hmm. They can do that. As a black belt, they can do that. They do not have to be an instructor. There is the option for them to do it. What there is not an option for is they do not get to help teach the teen and adult class. They have to dress out and train. And I will not be like, unless like, okay, so last night we had a new guy come in. That's the only class I let someone just do a trial at, is the older one. And he was getting a little flustered. He was doing really good, but you could tell he really didn't have any training. So I want the black belt to step in the back and just line up next to him. I said, you still do your kicks and stuff, but this way, if he's got a question, I'm not constantly walking back there. But for me, they have to train. Because that was one of my big regrets, is I would always help teach. And then after weeks and weeks and weeks, I'd be like, hey, when do I get a class? When do I get to practice still? I love this. And I think a lot of school owners are struggling so hard with their school that is their only option to get any help, is be like, oh no, you're a black belt? Yeah, you gotta be teaching. You gotta be teaching because they need the break. Whereas I've got a ton of helpers. It's an optional thing. They get to learn, they get to do stuff. None of it's mandatory. If they are of age and coming in to teach, it is paid. But then they have to clock out, dress out, and get on the mats and train. That is their time. And I've even told some of them, if it's that big of an issue, you can stay on the clock. Just get your butt out there and train on the last class. I'll pay you. I don't care. As long as you're going to tournaments, you're competing, you're helping me teach, I want this to be beneficial to you. You know, this is it. None of mine have that problem. They clock out, they're happy to clock out and get out there and do their class. But you do have to find that happy medium. And I think there's so many people over the years that it was like, oh, now I have to teach. I have a good friend that left martial arts forever because he just didn't want to. He goes, I don't want to run tournaments. Because all of us, when we hit a certain age, we'd start stepping up, helping run tournaments, teaching a bunch, you know. And he did not want to. I remember he'd come up to me at like the second tournament he helped run. He had to be in a suit and he didn't get to wear his uniform. And he was like, I hate this. And when he got the opportunity, he left. Now he's back into it now with his own kids years later, but they lost somebody because he just loved competing and loved training and loved doing it. He didn't want that part. He didn't want to own a dojo. He didn't want to teach classes. He didn't mind helping students. He was a great, great instructor. He didn't mind coming in helping on his nights. He was with a different school than I was, but on the nights that were his nights to train, he just wanted to train. He wanted to go to the tournament and compete. He's like, I'll help judge and I'll help compete, but I don't want to be the guy in charge today. And they pushed it on him, so he left. And I think that's where a lot of schools come with it.
So like getting a black belt, I mean, it's for the most part, it takes time, dedication, takes years of your life to get a black belt. And it's even harder when you do that as an adult,
Yes.
You know, having to go for that. That's a huge commitment. I wonder how many black belts there are out there right now that have nothing to do with the martial arts anymore.
Oh, well, I couldn't tell you how many black belts there are. I could tell you how many people there are that got close to black belt. Because
yeah, and I know. Oh, definitely. That's a huge number for sure. But like, I'm almost curious. I would love to ask somebody. Well, you know, yeah, you got your black belt, 20 years ago, when you were, I don't know, 22 years old or whatever it was, 27 years old, or even when you're 16 years old. Why don't you do it anymore?
I think for a lot of people, it's beaten into their head that that's the goal. Your goal is to be a black belt. Well, and I think a lot of schools, you gotta remember back in the day, there were a lot of schools were called black belt academies. Now we have a program called Black Belt Academy, but that's not the end goal. And I teach them that. Your goal is to be a good black belt, not to quit at black belt. You know, I think a lot of people came up in it was heavily taught, if you wanted to maintain students, we would at the end of class every night, what is your training goal? To be a black belt, sir. Well, then once people got their black belt, they're like, goal met, I'm out, and they quit. Because it's beat into their heads, that was their goal, and they think that it goes white belt to black belt. They don't realize that once you're a black belt, that's when it really starts.
Mm-hmm.
So I agree with you.
Yeah, you said it best.
People out there got their black belt and then never pursued it, for sure.
I wonder, yeah. So they've reached their goal, and nobody's given them another goal or shown them that there are more goals after that.
Well, a lot of schools don't have any curriculum for it. What do you do once you're a black belt? You teach. You teach. That was one of the reasons we started kickboxing class, because I had a bunch of my black belts. We were all kind of bored. We started hitting mitts one night. And they're like, hey, that's really fun. I was like, oh, well, I've kickboxed a whole bunch. Let's do that. And we added it as a class, and it was a fun way, and it actually helped my retention because it gave the black belts something new to do, something to switch it up for them. Now we've incorporated it all into one curriculum, so it keeps it fresh. But that was how it originally started, was something to do with the black belts, because they were like, well, we've done point sparring for years. We've been here 4 or 5 years at that point. We've done this, we've done that. They're getting a little bit of a lull, so how do you keep it fresh? What do you do? What programs are you doing in your school to keep it fresh? And I find that that's where a lot of people struggle, is there isn't anything. My instructor was really good at that. We had a bunch of different testings. We had we had tons of different weapons we got to learn, and that was all after black belt. And he had, he would always have, if we had 100 students, 50 of them were black belts. And I remember after I thought that was the norm until I got my own school and realized that really wasn't the norm to have that many people in a black belt rank in your school. That train religiously like that, but he was good at keeping us past black belt. But most students are taught you get to black belt, then you're done. And most people just think that way too. You know, you just do this till then and then you stop. I noticed that most students drop out in like a seasonal rate because they're used to doing a sports season. Oh, in the fall, we do basketball, whatever it is. That's probably wrong. Probably football. I don't know. But then when that's over, but they do. The parent loses interest, the kid loses it. So that's your job to combat that. It's not that you're really there teaching them a really good roundhouse kick. It's helping people help themselves. Like, we know martial arts is great for everybody. We've just had this hour and a half of talking about how great martial arts is and all the great things it's done for us. Now we've got to help people coming in understand that, because they don't get it. For us, we just get it because we've done it. But well, how do we teach that? How do we teach them those benefits so they understand that? They think their job is to get their kid to a black belt level. When everybody knows that one person said, I'm a black belt, I'm tough. Because you're a black belt, you're just automatically tough. Like, one of the things, my instructor, when I first got my black belt, she goes, don't tell anybody. She goes, it'll just be a problem. Don't even tell anyone you're a black belt. And I wouldn't, but there'd always be that one friend that knew it. Hey, are you giving him trouble? He's a black belt. And I'd be like, oh man, the chances of de-escalating that situation just went through the roof. Like, now it's like they got to prove something. When I became got my 5th degree, did my master's ceremony in Taekwondo and became master mat, I was out at a bar one time and there was a thing going on and somebody was like, hey, you better be careful messing with him. He's a master in Taekwondo. And I'm like, whoa, who asked you to butt in? You know, now the whole situation went bad. Now he had 3 friends that wanted to fight. You know, now I was like, all right, well, I got to get out of here. And I wasn't even having a dispute with these people. This was something else that was going on. I got like stuck into it. Or I pulled up at a party one time. 2 dudes come out the door fighting, rolling around the yard. My friend walked out. She's like, get Matt, he's a black belt. I was like, who? I went and got in my car and went home. I was like, I'm out. People think that just makes you this ultimate weapon, and that's just where it starts. They just don't understand that.
Yeah, and I mean, nobody's saying, hey, watch out, Matt's an orthodontist.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, it doesn't. Yeah, and I grew up with that too. You never, like I did, I never really talked about it. You know, is that something that, so how are kids, is it the same for kids now?
No, I don't think so at all. I think there's still that, oh, you're a black belt, you're tough type thing. But I feel like it is so common. You know, like I said, we started, like, I go into all these schools and the kids know me. My comp team, if a bunch of them all go to the same school, we do the talent show together, or I'll go up there and do the talent show with them. And no one, like, I remember when I was a kid doing that, or when my students, so like Jesse and Charlie Bouquet, when they were real little, when they were in middle school, I was 16, I would go up and do talent show with them. Because I remember I would skip school to go to their school and I never got caught. My dad would be like, yeah, I'll sign you out, whatever. I remember, like, the superintendent would be there watching their talent show, and I'm like, I'm literally skipping 4th hour at the high school. And there would be people that would give them trouble. Now it's just, they wear their t-shirts to school, they wear their hoodies to school. It's just kind of like a thing. Oh, you go to Boyer Academy. It's not looked at like, oh, you want to fight? Oh, you're black belt, you think you're better than me? Like, I remember people saying that, like people would have, the teacher would ask everybody to talk about their hobbies or something. I'd be forced to be like, oh, I do Taekwondo. Oh, you think you're tough? No, you kick a soccer ball, I kick targets. Like, I'm not saying that at all. This is my hobby. I feel that mentality is gone. Not all the way, but I would say, like, I talk to my students about it and I'll ask them, like, so what do people say when you do that? For example, Madeline, we were at her school. I was doing some demos with the classes, talking about stuff, and I asked her if she wanted to help. And she was in 8th grade. She was a little embarrassed. She was like, oh, I don't know if I want to do that. I was like, well, for the first one, will you help me? And I get it. You're 8th grade. You know, I was trying to be cool with it. And we had the teachers and a bunch of the students in there, and I was discussing how we do kicks. And Madeline would throw a roundhouse, and I would catch it right next to my face, and she would hold it there. And I would continue talking while she's fully extended with her roundhouse, because she was shorter than me, her foot up there. But she would stop it right here and I would catch it at the same time. Because you know, when you catch it here, if she had any power behind it, my hand would hit me in the face anyways. And the whole room went, whoa. So we started to wrap up. I'm like, all right, I'll see you later. And she goes, can I stay for the next one? I'm like, oh, now everybody thinks you're cool because you just threw that kick up in the air, and then we continued to talk with you holding your leg up in this beautiful roundhouse. Like, oh, now I don't know if I need you right now. I think I'm good on the next one. Like, I dealt her a fit about it. But the older boys, like, they went, like their eye, because I made sure to look, because it was a pretty little circus trick we had going where she'd throw these different kicks, and when she threw the head one, I'd catch it real fast and she'd just lock it in. And it was super impressive. And I made sure to immediately look at the older boys in her class, and they were like they just seen a car wreck. They didn't know what to do because she's very quiet. She's super academic, extremely intelligent. So when the smart girl can also kick your head right off your shoulders, it was like, whoa.
Yeah.
And
it's so nice to hear now that
yes,
people are seeing it as cool.
Yes.
You know? And yeah. Yeah.
It is, because it was a weird thing. It was always, people would always be like, why? You know, I told the students, I got injured my first time I got injured at a tournament and had to go to the ER in my uniform. So you were at a tournament and you were fighting this guy. Are you mad at him? No, he's actually a good friend. So why were you fighting? For a trophy.
For a trophy.
Is it expensive? No, they're not, no. But you guys fought. Uh-huh. So you guys must hate each other. No, he's a real good friend. So like, were you guys like talking smack? Like they couldn't. I remember I remember sitting there, my dad, by the end of the night, he's like, you good? I'm like, shoot me next time. Cause I literally, that's all I did for like 12 hours in the ER was try to like rationalize that we were at a tournament. That over and over and over and over again. I had it happen 2 different times. I remember being like, I was like so mentally exhausted because people didn't get it. Nowadays, it's so mainstream. I feel like if you went, they'd be like, oh, that's cool. My cousin does karate, or my uncle, or my grandpa. It's not looked at the same way. I just remember in the 90s, like it was late 90s, it just was, people were so confused. It was early 90s. People are just like super, so are you gonna go back? Yeah. Are you guys gonna be like good after this? Yeah. But he like hurt you. Well, I mean, I fell, but it wasn't intentional. But you, like, I just remember having the conversation and I was confused because to me, it was just a Saturday. To them, they were like, my dad's like, great, DFS gonna be up here in a minute to arrest me, because these people, because no one had they just did not fathom what we were doing one bit. And it has grown so much for kids though, I think. It's such a huge thing for them these days. So before we kind of wrap up here and get off, like what do you got going? You've got the clothing brand.
Yeah, yeah. So
I'm going
through.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm going through a little bit of a rebranding right now too. So I've got Red Effect Media. That was the parent company or I guess is now the parent company for both of my photography and for my gear company. So this year, I've launched a division called Hodo Studios. That's going to be the photography. Awesome. So Hodo Studios, it's going to be separate from Red Effect Media. And it's focusing on is just going out to karate schools and doing the photography. That's the business that I'm trying to scale right now. I'm starting to look for photographers because I just can't be everywhere at once. I wish I could.
Oh, that's what I was going to ask. So that's when you're going to scale up with other cool.
At that point now, I've been very fortunate now that I will be looking for regional photographers that I can train so that they understand martial arts, so that I can continue to sell that brand of we walk in and we take care of everything. I don't ever want instructors have to help out a photographer or anything like that. So I'm working on that with Hodo Studios. We just launched a new design this year. So I still have the Warrior collection, and that's still a passion of mine, is being able to find athletes that I feel are very deserving of exposure and using their image to really show off to other athletes and other martial artists in the world that this is cool. So we launched our new design Aura this year. It's featuring Ava, the pink dragon from American Karate. So
awesome.
We've got our my first tour is coming up in February. I'll be down in Texas for Almost 3 weeks. I'll be down in Texas. This time I'm flying down, renting the car, doing that because at the end of the trip, I planned it so that when my wife and kid fly down to Dallas, we've got a cheer competition to finish off
Nice.
the whole tour. So that's the direction that we're going with Hodo Studios.
That's really cool.
And a lot of it was because of just listening to parents and stuff like that on kind of like how they wanted that whole process to go. So I've changed the whole process. So the ordering system's all new now. So they can go, it's more like an online thing. I don't want to, I am not a salesperson.
Yeah.
I like going and doing the photography and the experience and the talking and meeting people and all that kind of stuff. And I don't want to have to deal with trying to sell packages at the exact same time and I've never been somebody that upsells anything. So
Yeah.
I'm trying to just take all that out of the equation, especially, if I can get a photographer trained and stuff. I don't want them to have to deal with sales. So
Yeah.
I'm now going to be focusing on the photography, making that whole experience super simple and easy. And then all of my ordering now of picking out the designs and stuff like that is all online. So they can do it
Awesome.
at their convenience, any time of the day or whatever. And if they, then just pick out what they want. And then everything gets worked up and sent out to them.
We're at a place in society where that stuff really works.
Yeah.
We're at a time and a place. We've been switching stuff like that at the school to be more online and automated for parents. I tried that 15 years ago by having different things and using software to send emails, and it fell flat. It didn't work, so I went back to paper and talking to everyone in person. And in the last 6 months, we've switched up to where different things we do, you just sign up online, it sends a sheet over, we shoot them an invoice for it, whatever. And that's where our lives are at right now, where you hop on Amazon. And I think that's a really smart move for you to make, because when I would have people come in, I'm like, so here's a testing form, you fill this out, and then you got to staple a check to it, bring it back to me. They were like, I got to do a what?
Yeah.
You want a what? Or I was like, or you can pay with the debit. Can you just invoice me? I was like, well, I could, but I tried this 15 years ago and it just blew up my face. No one wanted to use it. Everybody was like, whoa, that's really weird. So that's awesome.
Even things like Apple Pay, like I didn't have any kind of Apple Pay last year. Everything had to be, put in your credit card.
Yeah.
And like nobody does that. So finally, my system this year now, you could even just use your Apple Pay or is it Google Play?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, you can Apple Pay or Google Pay, so you don't even have to worry about putting in your credit card. And you just double click your button on your phone, and your package is paid for or whatever.
That's awesome.
The biggest challenge though was you know my work. I mean, it is in-depth 3D action designs that are totally surrounding the athletes, and it's every single one of those is every single athlete that orders, it's all handcrafted. So nothing's ever going to look like the exact same as the person before. And that's just because that's how advanced the designs are. It's not just an athlete in front of a background. That's simple. That's a simple automated service. But taking this last year, trying to figure out how I can develop an ordering system that could be more streamlined and automated and do my designs at the exact same time has been the challenge. I think I've gotten that down this year. It's harder for karate. I also do cheerleading, cheer photography. It's much easier for cheer photography because the designs are a lot different. In fact, I was just showing Mark Galindo is one of my clients, this new system where I'll be able to basically get out cheer designs within seconds, so that parents can see much, much faster. I'm still working. That's my goal for karate. So we're getting there. We're getting there. But I'm just trying to make it as easy as possible, for everybody.
Our society wants everything fast too.
Yes, so exactly. Exactly. That's the challenge. I'm in the right direction there. United Martial Arts Gear, that's the other company. That has always been like second to the photography. But the new direction for that company this year is I want to be more involved with working with athletes. So I can sit in my office and come up with all sorts of fun ideas and stuff like that with different cases or t-shirt designs and stuff like that. But I want it to be more, I want it to make a bigger connection with our martial arts, with our community. So that's why late last year I started working with some athletes, and they came up with their own t-shirt designs.
Oh, that's awesome.
And so we launched that. We got JC Smith, Ava Hemmer, Dayton Gerleman, Brandon Osborne, all came up with their own ideas. And so what I'm doing now is just trying to help them create a t-shirt for them that represents them and our sport. So our latest athlete is Braden Seitz, and we're launching his t-shirt this weekend. Awesome. In fact, tomorrow night during the Trad Challenge, he's going to be launching his t-shirt. So he's going to be featured on the website. And then we're doing like pre-order sales. We're going to start doing it as a pre-order sale now too.
Yeah.
So we spend a whole month promoting and marketing this new t-shirt that was created by a martial artist. And then I'm just like the vessel to like get that out to everybody.
Yep.
That's so really cool. It gives them an awesome experience, makes them feel special and important. And then we're giving something back to our, our martial arts community that they can relate more than just some generic dragon t-shirt that I can sell on Amazon.
Well, and when they see it, there's different martial artists or some pro fighters that I'm friends with that'll have their own branded gear and stuff. And even if the design's not like you said, something that appeals to everybody, if you know that person, you're like, oh man, that's something. My daughter absolutely loves it. Miranda Maverick's a good friend of ours, UFC fighter. When we bought her some warm-ups and stuff of Miranda's, and she loves rocking that. I love rocking your gear because we're friends, and I'm proud of that. I'm like, oh, it's my buddy's brand, and I love when there's that connection to stuff. I'm St. Louis, a huge fan of First Form. I wear their stuff. This shirt's a First Form stuff. This is Flagner Fail, which is a friend of theirs. I love supporting those companies because there's that connection there.
Yeah.
So that's a great thing you're doing by having that connection with the athlete, And those people are all over. I honestly, I think the studio I'm in right now is like 4 minutes from Ava's house. I'm like right up the street. I'm gonna have her on here soon. She photobombed my house the other day. I get a random text message, Ava doing a sidekick in front of my painting trailer.
You see, that's what we do. We do sidekicks in random places.
I know. That's why I was like, why wouldn't she? I just had to laugh. It was super cool. She's coming out next weekend for Justin Jules. But it's just such a great community. That's awesome with what you're doing and connecting it that way, because that's what people want. I love it when I have a t-shirt or an apparel or something that connects to a friend's company, that connects to something somebody else is doing, that I know I'm supporting them, I'm getting something that's cool, but then also it's that great, like when someone's like, hey, that's a really dope logo. What is that? Oh, it's my buddy. Oh, really? It's a cool conversation to have. So how do people go about finding you to either look up the gear or to, this is going to be going out all over the place as you start dropping in martial artists, if someone wanted to book you to come out to their school?
So the best way would just be go to my website. You just contact me through my websites, hodastudios.com, redeffectmedia.com, or unitedmagear.com. All my contacts,
awesome.
All of those. Or just hit me up on the socials there. I'm on Facebook.
We'll tag everything in this too for you.
Just search and most likely if you click on your friends list and look at all the mutual friends, I'm in there somewhere.
Yeah, I could always judge that. It's someone messaged the other day like, so-and-so, and I clicked on their thing. I'm like, we got some mutual friends, but I don't actually know that person. They hit them up off a reel and was like, oh yeah, I go way back with this guy. I'm like, I have no clue. So yeah, if you're on the friends list, you know them. So, well, I appreciate you jumping on today. This was awesome. It was really cool too, because we've had so many of these talks when you're at the school, like after you get set up, we've had so many of these chats and discussed these things over the years. It was really cool to sit down and get it on here. And I appreciate you obviously you got a busy weekend coming up. Enjoy Warrior and have fun with the family. And again, thank you for hopping on today.
All right, take care. Thank you.